Hi there and welcome back to TubaFix, the place where hapless instruments go to gain new life. You're probably wondering what I've been up to this past week. Well, a lot of it has been doing some research and ordering some parts and waiting for them to come in. I thought we would take a look through those parts and components today and kind of give you an outline of the next phases of this project. Also, I have a bit of a surprise for you in terms of a new member of the family. So, let's go through the stuff that I've gotten in the mail and see how that's going to be used in the near future. So from J.L. Smith, I got new springs for the tuba. You saw these in one of the previous videos because I need a new spring for the third valve, but I thought I would point them out as one of the materials that I got for this project. They only cost me $1.52 a piece, which I think is a deal. Also from J.L. Smith is this valve guide. It cost me $2.30, but it may come in handy when I'm trying to construct the final valve and get it correct. One of my big struggles is always replacing some brass tubing that's been damaged, especially on that lead pipe. I took some measurements of that and finally found a few suppliers of this. One was a company online, which I forget the name of right off the bat, and the other one was a local hardware store. And when I gave the same measurements to the local hardware store, they gave me the exact same brass tube from the exact same manufacturer. So apparently K&S Precision Metals is exactly the sort of place where you buy this kind of tubing. It does appear to be really close. So once I desolder the old lead tube, I'm going to figure out a way to try to bend these into the new lead tube for that tuba and replace it. Speaking of desoldering, I originally used my propane torch to try to start working on the desoldering process. However, I quickly discovered that desoldering with a propane torch is just way too much power and way too imprecise for what I'm trying to do. So, after looking at the videos of other people that do this kind of work, I bought myself a butane torch, which has a much finer flame. It's much more precise and it's much more accurate for dealing with this kind of work, so that I don't melt the entire instrument when I'm just trying to repair a little piece. In one of my Amazon orders, I got some blue juice because everybody needs blue juice in their inventory for their instrument, especially since this instrument takes regular valve oil as opposed to my rotary instrument tuba, which takes rotary valve oil.
Thank you, Amazon man.
To polish it, I've been using Brasso. You've seen that before, but it's a good polish, just not very good for the lacquered part of the instrument because it will scrub the lacquer right off, so I have to be very careful about where I use it. However, it does make it look very shiny in any place where I do need that to be the case. Got some Sculpey oven bake model clay. Not so much that I want to use it in the oven, although I may once I get some shapes defined, but what I really wanted was a nice stiff modeling clay because I want to work on modeling the inside of the tuba valve casing to make sure that I'm very, very accurate with my valve representation and reproduction, and I get that exactly correct so that I can replicate it in the way it's supposed to be. One of my next ideas to complete a replacement valve is to actually replicate it in acrylic. In order to do this, I'm going to need to make some sort of a mold. So I did some research and came up with this UMU 30 silicone rubber mold compound. It's a two-part compound that you mix together, and it forms a silicone mold out of whatever shape you want that you can then use to go and acrylic representation of that object. And so I'm going to use this mixed up around the valve and make a mold for it, and then go and pour that mold with acrylic in order to replicate it. The acrylic is the Art and Glow casting epoxy resin right here. Again, a two-part epoxy resin. Have to mix it together and then pour it into the mold and let it set. But this is supposedly very, very good for that. It's very hard when it gets done, and it's easy to work with, and so I'm hoping to replicate in there. I also did find some epoxy resins that actually dry into super hardness and or have aluminum powder inside to make it even harder and more metallic. But we're going to try it with this first, and I can always buy that harder drying resin later. If it works out, I can reuse that mold over and over, hopefully. In order to mix all this, I did go and purchase a pack of graduated cups from Amazon, so that I would have something easy to mix in and to measure, and also because I'm going to be throwing them away as soon as I do mix them, because of course they're going to get coated in crap. So that seemed to be a worthwhile purchase as well. Finally, I have a bit of a surprise for you all. In addition to my tuba collection, I have now added another family member to the collection of hapless instruments that need some love. This is a 1972 Olds Ambassador trumpet. I picked it up from a guy online for all of $30. It is almost entirely intact. I have it in pieces right now to help clean it. All the slides were stuck at the time I got it, so I picked up some liquid wrench, penetrating oil, and that solved the stuck slide and stuck mouthpiece problem, as well as picked up a new fresh can of WD-40, but I didn't have to use that. And it has all the parts. All the valves are here, so I don't have to replicate another valve for the trumpet. All the valves, all the springs. It is missing one of the finger buttons for one of the valves, but that's easily gotten from a different source, so I'm not worried about that. All of the valve tuning slides are still here. The one and the mouthpiece, even though it's a little rough, needs some buffing and some cleanup. The one thing it is missing is the primary tuning slide and the water key. So that goes on here in this shape, and these trumpets are well known for a D-shaped tuning slide. So I am missing that part. So if you know of anybody that has an Olds trumpet or the parts for it, I'd love to obtain it. Otherwise, I'm either going to be trying to find one secondhand, or I will be trying to fabricate that as well. Perhaps in the meantime, I'll actually replicate that in vinyl tubing or something like that, just so I can give it a play. From my research, these Olds trumpets were created. This is a student level trumpet, and so it's not, overly valuable or anything like that. But it is a neat old thing. It's 1972, so it's older than me. It's in fairly decent shape. There's a little bit of corrosion that I'm going to work out, clean up along here as well. And so I'm going to work my way around that and clean all those up and get reconstructed and get back in operation. But I think it's a nice little addition to the brass family here. So now you've seen all the parts and things that I've gotten to work on the tuba in the next phase, as well as the new member of the brass family here at the house. Don't worry, it won't be turning into TrumpetFix as well, although I may update you on the status of the trumpet project as we go along, and just let you know how that's going. So I know that's relatively short given all the other material that I've ever shown, but I wanted to give you a tour of all those parts, kind of the next steps, where I was in the process, the new projects that we have on the bench, and where we're going with that. So stay tuned. I'll bring you some new material on some of these actions going forward on TubaFix, and look forward to talking to you again soon. See ya.